provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Making headlines on First at 9. World peace and stability. President Maithripala Sirisena calls world leaders to follow great statesmen like Nelson Mandela. Expressing objection. World Patriotic Lankan Forum charges that Sri Lankan mission in Geneva does not represent the country. Urgent endorsement. PAFREL urges government and political party leaders to decide on electoral system for provincial polls.
Their responsibility to speed up this process and also take some firm decisions.
Assassination plot. UPFA MP Udaya Gamampila suggests a resolution to remove IGP from the post, citing recent manifestations.
The government should take immediate steps to remove Pujita Jayasundara from the office of the IGP.
Shattering Swedish call. Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven's confidence vote throwing government into disarray. A very good evening to all our viewers who joined us here on First at 9 on Derana 24/7 Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. The high-level general debate of the 73rd United Nations General Assembly convened today. Heads of state and governments as well as ministerial delegations will hold discussions until October 1st. President Maithripala Sirisena representing is scheduled to address the General Assembly tomorrow morning. The high-level general debate, where heads of state and governments and ministerial delegations convened, opened at the United Nations headquarters in New York today, as the largest annual meeting of world leaders began discussing gender equality and women's empowerment as an important topic. President Maithripala Sirisena will address the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly tomorrow. This will be President Sirisena's fourth consecutive annual address to the world body. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena was among the world leaders to attend the Nelson Mandela Peace Summit in New York City. The summit is focused on world peace in honor of Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela Penny.
Leaders like Nelson Mandela showed how humanity can bring about reconciliation. We speak about him because we do not have such great leaders today. Nelson Mandela showed how humanity can be used to give up power, limiting power, and to be in power. World leaders today do not use the path shown by leaders like Nelson Mandela. People of Sri Lanka respect leaders such as Nelson Mandela, and I call upon world leaders to emulate him and take the path he showed us.
The assembled representatives of governments and civil society adopted a political declaration at the Nelson Mandela Peace Summit, committing to redoubling efforts to build a just, peaceful, prosperous, inclusive and fair world. In the meantime, President Sirisena met with the Chief Operation Officer of US government-owned Millennium Challenge Corporation, Brock Berman, last evening. During the meeting, Millennium Challenge Corporation promised a $480 million grant to Sri Lanka for several development projects. He further said that he would obtain the approval of the US Congress shortly so that the agreement with Sri Lanka government could be signed by December in Colombo. The grant will be utilized for several development projects, including transport infrastructure development, road development, bus modernization, control of traffic congestion and traffic management. Now, our story on President Maithripala Sirisena's speech at the Nelson Mandela Peace Summit in New York is currently trending on our YouTube page. Also read the full story on www.adaderana.lk. The World Patriotic Lankan Forum handed over a communique to the permanent mission of Sri Lanka to the United Nations in Geneva, expressing their objection over dinner allegedly hosted by 4 LTTE sympathizers. Executive Committee member of the World Patriotic Lankan Forum, Dr. Channa Jayasumana, accused the Sri Lankan ambassador in Geneva of not arguing against unfair claims made by the LTTE sympathizers representing the Tamil diaspora during the 39th session of the UNHRC. The World Patriotic Lankan Forum convened a media briefing in Geneva yesterday, accusing officials of the permanent mission of Sri Lanka to the United Nations in Geneva for allegedly hosting a dinner for LTTE sympathisers on the 17th of September. However, upon an inquiry by Derana, the Sri Lankan Consul General to Geneva refuted the allegations. Despite these developments, the World Patriotic Lankan Forum handed over a communique to the permanent mission of Sri Lanka to the United Nations in Geneva, expressing their objections to the dinner that was allegedly hosted within mission premises.
On behalf of Sri Lanka, we have been expressing our views at the 39th session of the UNHRC in Geneva for 2 weeks now. At the same time, the LTTE sympathisers, representing 25 organisations of the Tamil diaspora, have continuously been expressing their views against our country, war heroes, former and current leaders. But then, officer representing the Sri Lanka embassy at the session did not object to any of these claims by the LTTE sympathisers at any point. They're using millions of rupees to maintain these embassies in foreign nations, but they never raised their voices on behalf of the country. If that is the situation, we ask the government to call back all of these ambassadors without wasting all that money.
Meanwhile, addressing the 39th session of the UNHRC in Geneva today, Executive Director of the World Sri Lankan Association, Aruna Varusanhandage, urged the Human Rights Council to take action to hold LTTE financiers accountable of their crime.
The Universal Periodic Review is a mechanism to address human rights concerns of all UN member countries. It is expected to ensure universal coverage and equal treatments to all states. 4 countries who call themselves the Sri Lankan Core Group have issued a statement on 11 September that the international community expects Sri Lanka to expedite the implementation of an accountability mechanism as recommended by the Resolution 30/1. The world should not forget that Sri Lankan armed forces fought to defend its citizens from the terrorist organization that was banned by more than 32 UN member countries because of the gruesome crimes committed against humanity. The modern terrorists learned the concept of suicide bombers from the LTTE. They even killed 2 national leaders, one in India and one in Sri Lanka. Every year since early 80, the world saw innocent men, women, children being killed in large number by LTTE terrorist attacks. They kidnapped women and children to be trained as terrorists. All this was done with the money collected by the LTTE international network. Millions of dollars were spent to buy weapons and these mass murders. We ask Human Rights Council what you have done to hold those who funded the LTTE accountable for the deaths of thousands of civilians. Today, these terrorist financiers are pretending to be the human rights champions and continue their campaign of separatism. We urge Human Rights Council to start a process to under global counter-terrorism strategy of UN to hold them accountable and show the world that there are no double standards.
Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca was questioned by the Criminal Investigation Department for 4 hours today over the alleged abduction and assault of journalist Keith Noyer. This is the second time the former army commander gave a statement to the CID over the case. Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca today arrived at the Criminal Investigation Department to record a statement over the abduction and assault of journalist Keith Noyer in 2008. Minister Fonseca arrived at the CID premises at around 12 noon and he was questioned by the CID for nearly 4 hours. Minister Fonseca was the army commander at the time Keith Noyer was abducted. The CID also presented the statement obtained from former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa over the same incident to the Mount Lavina Magistrates Court today. Meanwhile, Kurunegala District UPFA parliamentarian Johnston Fernando and 2 others were further remanded until tomorrow, when they were produced before the Kurunegala High Court this morning. The former minister and 2 others have been charged over the alleged financial misappropriation at Lanka Satusa when he was in charge as the trade minister. The defendants were arrested and remanded over the alleged import of large stock of rice for Lanka Satusa in 2008 without approval of the Cabinet of Ministers. President's former Chief of Staff H.I.K. Mahanama and former Chairman of the State Timber Corporation P. Dissanayake, who were arrested while accepting a bribe of Rs 20 million, were granted bail today. Colombo Chief Magistrate Ranga Dissanayake ordered their release on cash bail of 100,000 each and 3 sureties of 2 million rupees each. The magistrate granted bail after severely reprimanding the Bribery Commission for presenting a remand order that was not prepared properly. The case will be taken up again on the 11th of December. Meanwhile, Inspector of Police Neoma Rangajiva, who was arrested over the Valikada prison clashes in 2012, was granted bail by the Court of Appeal today. IP Rangajiva of the Police Narcotics Bureau was arrested by the CID on March 28 over the alleged killing of inmates at Valikada prison during a clash. Executive Director PAFL Rohan Ettiarachchi requests the government as well as political party leaders to urgently arrive at a stern decision on the system by which provincial council elections will be called. Speaking to First at 9, he added that the Speaker should also set out a principal standards in order to select new civil society representatives for the Constitutional Council.
Delimitation Review Committee, the time has extended for another 2 months. Definitely this will affect for the postponement of the provincial council elections. We were supposed to have provincial elections early next year, and also we are worried at this situation because we realize even though the government has appointed the review committee and they are working on it, but at the same time the government, most of the government speakers are saying that they are considering to go back to the previous electoral system. So there is no point if they are really going back to the previous electoral system to have upcoming provincial elections. No point just wasting time and resources to doing this, the review committee and taking time for that. So we humbly request all the government leaders and as well as all the political party leaders, those who are representing parliament, that is their responsibility to speed up this process and also take some firm decisions, and especially the government leaders, Prime Minister and the President, they have to take these political decisions to go to have a provincial elections, because we realize this is there are some technical issues, but we feel this is more the political decisions. And also the Constitutional Council term was end up with last 21st, and we as a civil society request from the Speaker as well as the Secretary General to build some sort of principal criteria to select the civil society representatives. We really appreciate the speakers and the SG's position. Both of them agree.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa accuses that the present government is incapable of eliminating the underworld. The former head of state added that government inaction has led to deterioration of society.
The society is corrupted today. Murders are taking place everywhere. Now there's another law for the north because they have to ask permission to take action against the group Ava. If it were in south, the police can reach them anytime and take action. But when it happens in the north, they have to take permission from the government, and it looks like they haven't given any permission yet. 2 youths were shot dead recently and the government has become helpless now. People are helpless too. The underworld is reigning. Narcotics enter villages freely and they easily spread in schools, and not only girl children, the parents should also pay special attention to boys now. Since the government can't look after the youth, the adults and clergy have a special responsibility to take care of them. If not, the society will deteriorate.
A special discussion on strengthening United National Party membership drive at grassroots level was held at the party headquarters, Sirikota, today. A special meeting was held for the United National Party electoral organisers at the UNP headquarters in Sirikota today. The meeting was held under the auspices of party's national leader and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
We have to renew memberships at all UNP branches across the island for the year. Part of this initiative will be the restructuring of the Lak Vanitha organisation and youth organisations, so we can start establishing UNP action committees. These were the subjects that were taken up at the meeting. We will also be appointing new organisers for several electorates in the near future. We carried out a performance evaluation for all members to see who is active and those who are not. We also held discussions on how we can develop the party and regarding the currency depreciation as well. We have managed to carry out the necessary restructuring of the top brass of the party in the recent months. There is a new general secretary and a national organizer. Let us keep playing the match and see what happens because we are practicing at the moment. The party leader said that he will listen to all recommendations and suggestions. Even yesterday he said he will appoint a new leader when the time is right. I have witnessed that when a certain official of the government has done wrong, he will either be suspended or removed from his post for a certain period of time. I believe it will be all right for him to stay silent for a little while during investigations.
Leader Pibituru Hela Urumaya, parliamentarian Uday Gamanpila reiterated calls to remove the Inspector General of Police Pooja Jayasundara from office, given recent manifestations surrounding the alleged assassination plot on the President and former Defence Secretary. Speaking to media in Colombo today, Gamanpila added that the government should remove the IGP by way of a vote in Parliament.
Firstly, whenever DIG Silva was in hot water, the IGP saved him. When he was under attack for submitting fraudulent documents as his educational qualifications, releasing LTT terrorists handed over to him by the military intelligence are such incidents. Secondly, when the president assassination plot was exposed, the IGP rushed to announce that it was a conspiracy against DIG Nalaka Silva by enemies within. Thirdly, before commencing any investigation, the IGP told the public that the audio recording, which is supposed to be the core evidence against this conspiracy, was ingenuine. Fourthly, DIG Silva was transferred to another division instead of interdicting him. Because of our continuous pressure, only he was reluctantly compelled to interdict him. Fifthly, the IGP participated in a Bodhi Puja which was organized to invoke the blessing on now interdicted DIG Nalaka Silva. In the light of above, an impartial investigation cannot be expected from the police department as long as Pujita Jayasundara is the IGP. Hence, the government should take immediate steps to remove Pujita Jayasundara from the office of the IGP in terms of removal of Officers Procedure Act number 5 of 2002. The government should take immediate steps to remove him by bringing a resolution in Parliament. We need the support of 113 members in Parliament. That cannot be done without the support of the government, especially the UNP.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. Releasing a communique today, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the emerging economic crisis faced by the country is the outcome of the ill-conceived economic policies of the current government and the lack of a homegrown economic management strategy. Expressing his views on the depreciation of the rupee, the former president added that the government has an unclear strategy when it comes to increasing exports of the country. The rupee fell to an all-time low of 169 rupees per dollar on Friday in an 8-session record-setting spree. The central bank, however, highlighted that it will intervene aggressively to curb excess volatility in the exchange rate.
Issuing a media release on the depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee, which surpassed 170 rupees against the US dollar last week, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa said that despite the global economic crisis between 2007 and 2008, the Sri Lankan rupee, which averaged 110 rupees and 62 cents to the US dollar in 2007, was still 114 rupees and 94 cents in 2009 after the crisis had run its course. He further noted that a government's task is to manage crisis, not to complain about it, as it had taken some quick thinking to keep out of the crisis that was sweeping the world in 2008. Defending the economic policy of the former government, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa stressed that his regime had a policy that encouraged production while reducing imports, particularly of food commodities such as dairy products, maize, soy, sugar, onion, potato, fruits, vegetables, poultry and certain industrial products. The former president also noted that the present government has an unclear strategy to increase exports and reduce imports in a backdrop where they are attempting to promote limitless liberalization and free trade. The communique further noted that central bank reports show that even with less dramatic currency depreciation that took place in 2015, 2016 and 2017, Sri Lanka's foreign debt burden increased by a colossal 697 billion rupees. The former president also highlighted that the government needs to raise rupee revenues to buy dollars to meet foreign debt payments. He further warned that the increase in the foreign debt burden this year will be very high due to the free fall of the rupee. The communique further reads that the country is paying a heavy price for shifting from an emerging production economy under his government to a trading economy under UNP policies. Meanwhile, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna too expressed their views on the depreciation of the rupee at a media briefing today.
The government is saying that the main cause of the depreciation of the rupee is due to the strength of the US dollar. This is partially true because it is not only against the US dollar that the rupee has depreciated, but it has against other currencies as well. We neglected industries that could earn the country a significant amount of foreign exchange. The port is one such field. Chandrika Kumaratunga sold one jetty of the port to a foreign party, while Mahinda Rajapaksa sold another jetty to Chinese. 64% of containers are owned by foreign companies. In Trincomalee, oil is being distributed from the location by the LIOC. 1/3 of the profits belong to the LIOC. Another issue we face is that most products that we can produce in Sri Lanka is being imported from other countries.
Meanwhile, members of the joint opposition spoke on the government's mismanagement of the country's economy.
The United States announced that they are planning to reform the economy in a manner that will strengthen their domestic production. Our central bank informed the government of the repercussions of this 1.5 years ago, but they did not prepare for the eventuality. You cannot strengthen the rupee overnight, but we believe that if we come into power, we would be able to keep the rupee between 140 and 142 rupees.
Oil prices have hit a 4-year high of over $81 a barrel after Saudi Arabia and Russia rejected calls by US President Donald Trump to increase production. Brent crude hit its highest level since November 2014 at $81.16 a barrel, up 3% on the day. Saudi Arabia leads the OPEC oil cartel, while Russia is the biggest oil producer outside the group. They met in Algiers on Sunday to discuss global supply levels and US sanctions on Iran. The meeting ended with no formal agreement on any additional supply boost. Saudi Energy Minister Khalid Al-Falih said at a press conference in Algiers that he did not influence prices. Reuters reported that OPEC and other producers have discussed raising output by 500,000 barrels a day. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan shares fell over 1% today to their lowest close in nearly 5 years as foreign investors selling a weaker rupee and a government plans to curb imports hurt investor sentiment. The all-share price index closed 71.32 points down to 5,833.58 and the turnover was 297 million rupees. We now have Hiruni Pereira from First Capital Holdings with the detailed report.
Today, bourse ended in red for the third consecutive day, dragged down by Ceylon Tobacco and Hemas Holdings, recording the largest dip for the year and lowest closing in 55 months. SPI witnessed a downward trend throughout the day and closed at the day's low of 5,834, losing 71 points. Both volume and turnover decreased more than half, and nearly 32% of the turnover was derived by Sampath. A net foreign outflow was witnessed for the fifth consecutive day with high foreign participation.
Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven had lost a no-confidence vote in Parliament today. He will now have to step down after 4 years in power, but with neither major political bloc holding a majority, it remains unclear as to who will form the next government. Weeks after general election that delivered a hung parliament, Sweden's Prime Minister Stefan Löfven will have to stand down after losing the support of parliament. In the no-confidence vote today, 204 parliamentarians voted against Löfven, while 142 voted in favour. The anti-immigration Sweden Democrats backed the vote to remove him. Parliament Speaker will now propose a new leader, a process that could take weeks. Meanwhile, Löfven will lead a transition government until a new administration is installed. Löfven came to power in 2014 and is the leader of the centre-left Socialist Democrats. His centre-left alliance won 144 seats in this month's election, one more than the centre-right opposition. However, neither of the main blocs intends to govern with the nationalist SD, the third largest party in the new parliament. Speaking after the vote, Löfven said he intended to work to form another government across the political divide. Löfven said that he did not believe that a fresh election was something voters wanted, while stating that he would never support a government that relied on the Sweden Democrats. Now, co-founder of Facebook Inc.'s Instagram Chief Executive Officer Kevin Systrom and Chief Technical Officer Mike Kriegels resigned from the photo-sharing app company yesterday. They reportedly told the Facebook leadership of their decision to leave yesterday, and the departure appears sudden. Systrom said they were departing to explore their curiosity and creativity again. Instagram, which Facebook bought in 2012 for $1 billion, has more than 1 billion active monthly users and has grown by adding features like messaging and short videos. The co-founders continued to run the service after it was acquired by Facebook. However, international media attribute the departure to tension between the pair and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg since 2014.
Watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Sports Minister Faisal Mustafa says that he is ready to remove the Sri Lanka Cricket Selection Committee if they are to take any wrong decisions. He made this remark when he was questioned over speculations that Angelo Matthews was dropped from the upcoming England tour of Sri Lanka. Senior Sri Lanka cricket Angelo Matthews yesterday lashed out at the national selectors after he was removed from the captain's post with immediate effect. Matthews was asked to vacate the post after Sri Lanka's disastrous campaign at the ongoing Asia Cup 2018.
I have given the selection committee the responsibility to make right decisions. If there are any issues over their decisions, then I will not wait around and remove the selection committee.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
And moving on to our weather forecast now, as usual, northern and eastern parts of the island are expected to have the highest temperatures, but temperatures will be much milder than the past few weeks, with the highest around 31 degrees Celsius. The lowest temperatures can be expected from the central hills at 20 degrees Celsius. As per the rain forecast, it's going to be a rainy day tomorrow, with showers or thunder showers forecast for all districts during the day. Misty conditions can also be expected during the morning. Let's now take a look at your city-by-city forecast. And that is it for Derana First at 9 for tonight. But before we go, we'd like to take you to Pidurangala, a place of much attention presently due to a social media controversy. Pidurangala rock, which is adjacent to the Seagira Rock Fortress, provides one of the most spectacular views of the Seagira Rock and is also a popular spot for sunrise. Pidurangala, an ancient rock fortress, was also home to the Royal Cave Temple, which has survived only by a few remains. We hope you enjoy these visuals and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.